Good afternoon, one and all. I am Dr. Thenmozhi, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Zoology, St.Joseph's College of Arts and Science, Cuddalore. Today, my topic is ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a structural and functional unit of ecology where the living organisms are there. Each living and non-living organisms interact with each other and the surrounding environment. In other words, an ecosystem is a chain of interaction between organisms and their environment. The term ecosystem was first coined by A.G. Tansley, an English botanist, in the year 1935. Structure of an ecosystem can be split into two main components, namely biotic components and abiotic components. Here you can see the flow chart: ecosystem, abiotic and biotic factors. In biotic factors, you can see the three main components like producers, consumers and decomposers. Consumers can again be divided into three components: primary and secondary and tertiary components. Abiotic factors include the soil, sunlight, air, atmospheric air. Everything comes under abiotic factors. So, what are all the biotic components? Biotic components refer to all living components in an ecosystem. Based on nutrition, biotic components can be categorized into autotrophs, heterotrophs and saprotrophs or decomposers. Producers include all autotrophs such as plants. They are called autotrophs as they can produce their food by the process of photosynthesis. Consequently, all other organisms higher upon the food chain rely on producers for their food. Consumers or heterotrophs are the organisms that depend on other organisms for their food. Consumers can again be divided into three components: primary consumer, secondary consumer and tertiary consumers. Primary consumers are always herbivores because they rely on the producers for their food. Secondary consumers depend on primary consumers for energy, that they can either be carnivores or omnivores. Tertiary consumers are organisms that depend on secondary consumers for their food. Tertiary consumers can also be carnivores or omnivores. Decomposers. What are decomposers? Decomposers include all the fungi and bacteria. They are otherwise called as saprophytes. They directly thrive on the dead and decaying organic matter. Decomposers are essential for the ecosystem as they help in recycling nutrients to be reused by plants. Abiotic components include all the non-living components of an ecosystem. It includes air, water, soil, minerals, sunlight, temperature, nutrients, wind, altitude, turbidity, etc. Functions of an ecosystem. The functions of an ecosystem are as follows. An ecosystem regulates the essential ecological processes supporting life system and renders stability. It is also responsible for cycling up of nutrients between biotic and abiotic components. The ecosystem maintains a balance among the various trophic levels in an ecosystem. It recycles the minerals through the biosphere. Abiotic components help in synthesis of organic compounds that involves the extra energy. What are all the functional units of an ecosystem? First of all, productivity is the first functional unit. It refers to the rate of biomass production. Energy flow. Energy flow is sequential process through which energy flow from one trophic level to another. That is from producer to consumer, consumer to decomposers. The energy captured from the sun flows from producers to consumers and then to the decomposers and finally back to the environment. Decomposition. What is decomposition? It is the process of breaking down of dead and decaying organic material. The topsoil is the major source for decomposition. It is a main site for decomposition. Nutrient recycling. It is an ecosystem nutrients that consumed and recycled back in various forms of the utilization by various organisms. Types of ecosystem. An ecosystem can be as small as an oasis in a desert or as big as an ocean. It is spanning thousands of miles. there are two types of ecosystem: terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. What is terrestrial ecosystem? Exclusively land-based ecosystems are terrestrial ecosystem. There are different types of terrestrial ecosystems as like forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, tundra ecosystem, desert ecosystem, and so on. What is forest ecosystem? Forest means it is dominated with trees. It consists of several plants, several types of plants, particularly trees, bushes, and small herbs. Animals and microorganisms that live in the coordination with the abiotic factors of the environment. Forest helps in maintaining the temperature of the earth, and also they act as a major carbon sink. Grassland ecosystem. Grassland ecosystem is a vegetation dominated by grasses and herbs. Temperate grasslands and tropical grasslands are the examples of grassland ecosystem. And the tundra ecosystem, that is devoid of trees and other, found in cold climates, wherein rainfall is very scarce, but it is found in the cold climate. These are covered with snow for most of the years. Tundra type of ecosystem is found in Arctic or mountain tops. Desert ecosystem. Deserts are found throughout the world. These are the regions with very little rainfall and scarce vegetation. The days are hot and the nights are cold. Aquatic ecosystems are the ecosystems present in the body of water that can be further divided into two types, namely freshwater ecosystem, marine ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystem is an ecosystem. It is an aquatic ecosystem that includes lakes, ponds, rivers, streams, and wetlands. They have no salt content in contrast with the marine ecosystem. Marine ecosystem includes seas and oceans. These have some more substantial salt content and greater biodiversity in comparison to that of the freshwater ecosystem. Important ecological concepts. First of all, food chain. Food chain is a chain, that is the process of eating and being eaten. Sun is the ultimate source of energy, provides all energy required for all the plant life. Plant utilize this energy for the process of photosynthesis, which is used for synthesize their food. During this biological process, light energy is converted into chemical energy and it is passed on through successive trophic levels. The flow of energy from producer to a consumer and eventually into a detritivore is called as a food chain. Dead and decaying matter among with organic debris is breaking down into its constituents by the scavengers. The reducers then absorb these constituents after gaining the energy. The reducers liberate molecules to the environment, which can be utilized again by the producers. Here we can see a grassland ecosystem food chain, whereas grasses are the producers. Sunlight is the abiotic factor which gives the energy for the plant growth, and grasses are eaten by the grasshoppers, which are called as the primary consumers, and grasshoppers by frog or rat is the secondary consumer, and snake is the tertiary consumer, and finally hawk is also a consumer. So in this way, all this after their death will be decayed and decomposed by the microorganisms present in the soil, like bacteria and fungi, which are considered as the decomposers. So what is ecological pyramid? Ecological pyramid is a graphical representation of number, energy and biomass of the successive trophic level of an ecosystem. Charles Elson was the first ecologist to describe the ecological pyramid and its principles in 1927. The biomass, number and energy of an organism ranging from the producer level to the consumer level are represented in the form of a pyramid. Hence it is known as ecological pyramid. The base of the ecological pyramid comprises of producers followed by primary, secondary and tertiary consumers. So tertiary consumers hold the apex. The producers generally outnumber the primary consumers, and similarly the primary consumers outnumber the secondary consumers. And lastly, apex predators also follow the same trend as the other consumers, wherein their numbers are considerably lower than the secondary consumers. For example, grasshoppers feed on crops such as cotton and wheat, which is plentiful. These grasshoppers are then preyed upon common mouse, which is comparatively lesser in number. The mice are preyed upon by snakes such as cobras, and snakes are ultimately preyed upon by apex predators such as brown snake eagle. So they are lesser in number when it goes to the apex of the pyramid, towards the apex of the pyramid. Food web. What is food web? Food web is a network of interconnected food chain. It comprises all the food chains within a single ecosystem. Because one animal is not choosing a single food, they have lot of choices in it. So it helps in understanding that plants lay the foundation of all the food chain that is occupying the producer level. In the marine environment, phytoplanktons form the primary producer. So, thank you, students.